Okay, the merchant is a crew job as well as a profession that you can choose for your captain at the beginning of the game. You can also get them from contacts, and of course, like any crew job, you can take an officer and train them in merchant as well. Their primary skill is going to be negotiate, which is used for through talents and certain missions exclusively. Command, which is used greatly in ship combat and a few other settings, and tactics, which is used all around, though they don't get a lot of them. The professions for the profession gives particular traits for the captain that are unique, and they're pretty good. I like these. Exacting gives you 2 bonus charisma, 1 wisdom, whatever. It can help with certain things, sure. But it gives you 10% profit when trading at an exchange. Playing on impossible, and I think even brutal, you get no bonus profits. This can make basic trading a lot harder than for people that are playing on normal, where I think they get a plus 30% bonus profits. They're basically getting triple this trait just by playing the game. But a merchant normally doesn't. But when you're playing on harder difficulties, you'll see that economics are a little tighter, and a 10% profit can be pretty considerable. This does not apply at the black market. There's already a 25% base bonus there, so they don't need to add this on, and it gives the smuggler some room to thrive there. Sparta's saying merchants are cool, but the problem is that mercantiling is kind of limited by permits and law. That's true. I mean, you have to have permits, and there's trade law. You have to kind of plan it out. It's a different game. You have to be plotting it out, and certain maps are more fun than others. What I like actually about merchant has nothing to do with the exacting talent or trait. It's lawful. This reduces the hostility of law-abiding ships, military officers, merchants, bounty hunters, and zealots encountered in travel. So what you can do with lawful is this makes it so that it's pretty uncommon for people to just be mad at you for no good reason. So you're bribing less. Also, you're losing reputation when you retreat less. Also, you often have a surplus of reputation you're able to acknowledge and get reputation. That, of course, makes it even easier to have hostility 3, which lets you demand tribute once and then get reputation by acknowledging. Basically, merchants are the ultimate pacifists that everyone pays just to see. You can demand tribute like a pirate because people like you a lot more. It's so much easier to maintain positive reputation, and then easier perhaps than a diplomat. I'm not sure on that point. Um, so you're able to demand tribute all the time, and you're getting lots of reputation. You can recover from a lot of reputation death spirals. The merchant is a great way to go if you're trying to please everybody, and the extra money that comes in here can help outfit you for combat later on. It's a pretty safe start. I'd recommend starting as a merchant to anyone that's starting the game for the first time and is worried about combat. All right, let's go into the talents. Wise Counsel. This is negotiate save. It matters for certain missions. Um, that's It's not super strong outside of it because there's no checks for negotiate outside of missions, to my knowledge. But there are also a lot of missions that need negotiation, especially early in the game. So getting one of these pretty early on can help certain story options be viable. Known trader, this discounts the price of a trading permit by 10% plus negotiate skill, and the contact spends less reputation based on your charisma. So the merchant is actually pretty charisma focused, charisma dependent for their attributes. But known trader doesn't really matter at the really early game because you're usually buying just trading permit 1s or spice permits, and those are cheap enough that it doesn't really matter. But as soon as you're buying, say, free trader permits, or full trader permits, sorry, which are rank 3, or if you're crazy enough to do a principal trader permit, then that starts saving you a considerable amount of money. Market Confidant. This is a way to unlock an achievement in and of itself. There's an achievement for getting a whole bunch of contacts in a short space of time. This is how you do it. When you execute a trade at the exchange worth over 5,000, you have a 10% plus charisma chance of getting introduction to a contact from the local faction. So you can trade at exchanges that aren't hating you so much they don't let you trade there, and control which faction you're going to be getting contacts from. It's really easy to make a trade worth over 5,000, and you can just go planet to planet, getting contacts really early on. 9-week cooldown. That is not that long for getting a new contact. This is a very strong talent. Friendly banter is another way to get contacts early on. 13-week cooldown is a bit tougher, but you don't even have to be doing an exchange worth a certain amount. You just have to be using the spice hall at all. That's again a charisma % chance to learn about a contact. So keeping your charisma high, which is helped by the exacting trait if you're a captain, It's a way to just get so many contacts through merchants. I'm going to call out right now something Sparta said. Principal trader permit is very unstable in his opinion. I agree. Principal trader can be lost by any reputation loss of 2 points or more, unless you have very certain conditions that are met that aren't worth going into, and those are very expensive anyway. I think there are changes in the works to make it so that if you have really high reputation with a faction, say plus over 100, that rule does not kick in, and your principal trader permit will be safe. If that's the case, that changes the viability of principal trader permits by a lot. All right, going back here, garner favor when executing a trade worth over 5,000, gain reputation up to your negotiation skill with the local faction. This is a nice way to get you some reputation with a faction that's starting to not like you a whole lot, but you generally have enough ways to boost your reputation if your profession is if your profession is merchant. You can do it other ways, but if not, this can be a good way to suck up to some locals. Cordial invitation. This is not my favorite talent because I don't generally use introductions, but you do get bonus reputation up to your negotiate skill, which can be, I don't know, mid-game 10 negotiation, an extra 10 reputation, the new content when you buy an introduction. I don't find that to be worth it. This is probably one of the weaker talents in the game. I can't recommend cordial invitation. Generosity. The mechanics here are not obvious. I don't even know how it works. There is a morale bonus when you pay your crew. There is a morale penalty when you do not pay some of your crew, but you do pay some of your crew. Some crews paid, some isn't. But neither of those are documented in any fashion, so we don't know how much this improves one and mitigates the other. Could be really good. It's probably worth having one of these, but we don't have numbers, so we don't know. Let's see, jettison cargo. Dumping one randomized type of our ship's cargo into space buys time to escape a pirate before ship combat starts. This is like Skip Off the Void, but at the expense of random type of cargo and only against pirates. And it has a shorter cooldown, doesn't have other drawbacks, yada, yada, yada. It will randomly select from among the different types you have. If you have two types of different factions, say you have polymer ingots from Steel Song and polymer ingots from Kadar, it'll probably select among them separately. But it'll just select a random stack of cargo that you have and discard it. You get out of the combat for it. I tend not to use this talent ever, but I could see some players using it to avoid a very hostile pirate that's going to steal all their stuff otherwise, or just destroy them. Let's go back to Sparta for a moment. You need to focus on keeping your rep safe all the freaking time, but have to risk principal black market at that point, wondering 30 grand per lost permit. Yeah, some people are better at maintaining safe reputation than others. I do a pretty good job in some playthroughs of not even having to worry about it, and yeah, I think that if they make the change to having 100, yeah, check target generators suck. Yeah, the back to the permit 4. Permit 4 is not actually 30 grand per lost permit, it's 50 grand. If you have a bunch of discounts, you might get down to 30 grand, but generally it's 50 grand or more. So it's even worse than you're stating. Yeah, so keeping reps safe is really hard. You really only want to do one permit 4, which again is the principal permit with a single faction, and you have to guard that reputation with just that faction. If they make the rule where it's safe with that faction as long as you have 100 plus reputation, then that would make it a lot easier, and I think all of this wouldn't really apply. All right, let's go over here. When executing a trade at the trade exchange worth over 5,000, barter to increase your profit purchase by 10 plus negotiation skill percent. This is great to have as well. You'll be buying things worth over that all the time. Having a discount on it's great. Selling things over that, getting extra money is great. If it's 9 weeks between the purchase and the sale, you can have it discounted and sold and get the discount on both ends. Righteous Permits is an excellent talent for making money. And Trader's Reciprocity. This is a way in order to gain reputation with known contacts in the zone of the trade equal to your trade permit rank. So 1, 2, 3, or 4. If you have 3 contacts there, you get 3, and you have trade permit 4, you'd get 4 with each contact. This is actually one of the few ways you can raise reputation with someone that doesn't have missions and doesn't buy intel. It's really hard to control, but you can raise a lot of reputation. You can raise reputation with people that are kind of hard to get on the good side of this way. So it can be situationally very good, but you have to have a decent trade permit, at least 3, for it to matter. And the way the rules currently exist, exactly trade permit 3. All right, bold statement. Trading into a trade ban or trade war grants reputation bonus for the second faction up to the rep penalty of the defended faction. This only applies if you actually offended the faction, which means your reputation with them has to be above -28, and then you'll get some reputation with the one you didn't trade against. It is not a very strong talent. I do not recommend getting it. It's very situational and a very small impact for what it is. There's so many good talents here. I would not choose bold statement. In fact, it'll compete with all the other trade talents, and in fact can be worse than not selecting a talent at all. Lucrative wholesale is an excellent talent. It only triggers if you're making an exchange worth over 50,000. Again, this cannot be in the black market. This must be in the exchange. Generates intel records worth up to negotiate skill from market insight. This one can have a disadvantage. Sometimes you might want a 10 plus negotiate skill percent bonus on your cash rather than 10 to 20 intel. Usually that much intel is amazing, but sometimes I've been like, oh man, I was going to make so much money, instead I got 20 intel. Generally, that much intel is better. It's very strong, as this is a way for merchants to get intel in large quantities, which it will be, because by the time you're making sales worth over 50,000, you've probably got a decent negotiate skill. If you've got skill bonuses to it and stuff later game, you can get a lot of intel. But if you're making, but as soon as you have rank 11, you might only get up to 9 intel when maybe you're selling something worth 300,000. Well, I'd rather be getting a whole bunch of profits rather than 9 intel. So it varies, but in general, this is a pretty safe talent to select at rank 11. Getting